I think we can start. Okay, welcome to the call for EOI for service provider for South and Southeast Asia Regional Innovation Hub, or call for expression of interest. We will have the Q&A session today, but before we start, there are a little bit of housekeeping things. The first one is that this is the live event. Please feel free to use the chat box. At the top right corner of you will find a little chat icon. If you have any questions or any technical problem, please feel free to use that chat box and a chat function to type in your question. Secondly, for all of the pre-submitted questions related to EOI, we will be answering that during this Q&A session. And most importantly, this session will be recorded, and this will be shared and uploaded on the website of WE4F, so any other person will have the same access of information. And last but not least, there will be one-minute survey at the beginning and another quick survey at the end of this presentation. So, if you are using your phone, we will have the QR code for you. If you want to click the link in the chat, you can do that as well. It will just take less than 1 minute, so we're really quick. So these are the 4 housekeeping things. Now about the agenda, what do we discuss today? We'll discuss about the introduction of the hub first. What are we doing? Why do we need this call to support our task? What will be the target? What is the objective or the objective of the hub, so on and so forth. Then we'll walk through the pre-vetting process and timeline, and why we need this call for innovation. What is the service category? What is the process look like? What will happen to the pre-vetted service provider? So on and so forth. Then we will have a touch on evaluation criteria and required document. There will be some documents that you need to submit, and there are certain criteria that we use to look at the service provider when we vet them. Last but not least, we will answer the question, the Q&A, both the pre-submitted one and the live one. So for the new one who joined, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat function and type in your question at any time. We will collect it as we go, and we will answer it at the very end. All right, I think it's the time. So you are here with us today. With me first, I'm Bess Rattasari. I'm the hub manager for WE4F South and Southeast Asia. And the next person you will see on the screen is Smita, who is the technical assistant facilitator and also our agenda advisor. Also Mukesh, who is our grant and finance specialist, taking care of the contractual tasks at the hub and managing the grant. You are also with Yogita, who is leading the communication and knowledge management at the hub, and Art Pongsagon, who is the country coordinator and based out of Thailand and cover another country as well, and Prim, who is our program assistant. All of these are the team that work on this Q&A webinar, and please take just 30 seconds before we start working on and walking through the overview of the hub. Please just use your phone to scan the QR code here, or you can just click the link in the chat box. I think the link will come in very soon, and you can just spend 30 seconds just to finish the first survey. All right, the link is here in the chat as well. So I think I'll give you about 1 minute for you to fill out the form. It'll just be really, really quick. I think we have a full house here. We have almost 30 person joining. All right, as we have quite a number of people who just joined, what you are seeing on the screen is a very quick survey. You can use your phone to scan the QR code, or you click the link in the chat box at the top right corner of your screen to complete the survey as well. A very quick housekeeping things for whoever who just joined. This session is being recorded. The main purpose of that is for us to be able to upload this recording onto our website, and therefore everyone will have the same access to the information that we discussed today. And if you have any question, please feel free to use the chat function to type in your question, and we will have the team to collect the question and answer those questions at the very end. All right, I think that's it about the survey. Please feel free to continue to complete it. I'll just walk you through a bit about WE4F. Like, what is WE4F? In case Water and Energy for Food program is new to you, it's a legacy program of another two program working on food and water, agri and water, and energy and food program. So the Water Energy for Food program is the multi-donor program, the multi-donor initiative. We work with a couple of donor organizations, starting from the German Federal of Economics, Cooperation and Development, the European Union, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Government of the Netherlands, the Swedish through SEDA, and of course USAID. So we work in the couple of regions. We have 5 hubs across the globe, 4 in Africa and 1 in Asia. Within the Asia hub, we cover 15 countries. But before I go to that, the next slide will also show you what are we actually doing in this hub. So the impact that we are trying to and we aim to achieve is to increase food production along the value chain. And as I mentioned earlier, we will do it in the more sustainable way with the efficient use of water and or energy. We also aim to increase the income working with the innovator or entrepreneurs and increase the income of the people at the base of the pyramid from both gender and any gender, from both men and women in both rural and urban area. We also work on sustainable scaling of the innovator or entrepreneurs who are working in the WE4F or water, energy, food nexus. Last but not least, we promote the climate resilient and climate mitigation development, and also working on biodiversity and other elements of the environment as well. Now, next we will see the targets. We plan to work with 40 innovators in the next couple of years. We have already had onboarded more than 30 innovators or entrepreneurs who you will be working closely with if you're a pre-vetted service provider. The second thing that we do is we provide a technical assistant. And as we talk about the technical assistant, as you can see that we aim to provide 90 of them. Part of that will be provided internally. So we have the team of experts that we can provide the technical assistant to the entrepreneurs or the innovator by ourselves. However, because there are some elements that require local knowledge, there are some technical assistants that require really specialized skill or the local know-how. And that's the reason why we are looking for other person to provide the service or support to our entrepreneurs or innovator on our behalf. And that's the reason why we have this call for expression of interest for the service provider to come in, be pre-vetted, and able to compete for the contract to provide the service to the innovator on the hub's behalf. The next thing is on investment facilitation. So we aim to mobilize the fund and investment at 20 million USD by the end of the program. Last but not least, we also aim to work with everyone, integrate the gender, the BOP, and environmental sustainability within our operations across the activities that we do. We also aim, and one of our main target is actually to reach 1 million smallholder farmer in both gender and include 1/4 of them to be women. So that's a target of the hub. Now, in the next slide, what you will see is that this hub is actually a consortium of 3 organizations. One is TerraTech, the second one is Crossberry, and the third one is Network. So for this contract that you will enter if you are to be providing the service to the innovators or entrepreneurs, the contract will be signed between the TerraTech entity as a prime contractor for this hub and your organization. Mukesh, who is leading the grant and finance specialist at the hub, will talk more about that. The hub is based in Thailand. However, we operate in 15 countries across South and Southeast Asia. And as you see in the map, these are the countries that we are working in, and these are the countries which our innovator will be based in. So one of the key elements that we are looking for from the service provider is a local insight, the local knowledge within these countries. Next slide. You will see that we have that we onboarded quite a couple of innovators now. We have 7 water food innovator, 12 energy food, and 11 water energy food innovators in the cohort right now. Then I'll walk you through a bit about the innovator that we support. The first one is we have quite a number of innovators working on solar power irrigation solutions. As you may already know, the water access is one of the key challenge for a lot of farmers, especially smallholder farmers across the region. So we have a lot of innovators working on irrigation solutions, especially the solar power one. We also have innovators working on biodigester. So the key benefit of that is just not only to promote the gas generation for clean cooking, but also the residues can be used for agriculture and food production. We have some innovators working in green charcoal and green charcoal brick as well. The next one is about solar dryer. We have some innovators working on solar dryer who are applying the technology across the region at this moment. And livestock farming. And of course, we have quite a number of innovators who are working on data applications. The reason why we walk through the sample of innovators that we support is that so you see who will be your clients in the very end. Because in the end, while the contract between you and TerraTech will be signed, the key clients of you that you need to work with closely is the innovator who are working on and across this technology. And there are more. If you want to explore more about our innovator, what you would do is you can go to our website, click we4f.org/innovators. You can find the link in the presentation that we will share, and you can also see the link in the chat as well. So if you go to the chat in the next few minutes, you will also be able to find the link that you will use and see who are our innovator as well. All right. Last but not least, before I give the floor to Susmita, to summarize what are we doing, what are we doing is that first we identify innovators. We need to identify 40 innovators at least at the hub, at this hub only. Second, we provide technical assistance. As I said before, we either provide the technical assistance within our hub using a hub's experts team, or we do the subcontracting service that we work with the service provider to provide the service, to provide the support to our innovator on our behalf. We have the brokering unit working on investment facilitation. We have an enabling environment unit working on policy and partnership. And of course, one of the key elements of the hub is to promote end user financing. As mentioned before, that we aim to work with a lot more smallholder farmers and especially people at the base of pyramid. So therefore, end user financing is one of the key elements that we work at the hub as well. In the next slide, you will see that the deadline of the submission is within the next half month or only 2 weeks. So the submission deadline will be on September 16th at 5 p.m. Bangkok time. So if you have any question, please ask now so you can clarify and then can go back and submit your EOI by that time. We will take about a month to do the vetting process, and then we should be able to announce the result of pre-vetted service provider by October 14. Before I give the floor to Susmita, one thing I want to emphasize is that this is the pre-vetting process, meaning that there's no guarantee that you will get the contract, but this will allow you to be in the pool of the service provider who will be able to look into the pool and identify the pre-vetted service provider and ask for your submission of proposal, and you'll be automatically be vetted and evaluated before you provide the service to the innovator. So I think that's it for the introduction part. The deadline is here. You'll see us emphasizing again and again during this call and Q&A webinar. One of the last questions that I want to emphasize here is that if you have already applied and vetted last year, you do not need to apply again because you're already in the pre-vetted pool and you will continue to be in the pre-vetted pool going forward. So I think that's it for the introduction section, and I'll give the floor to Susmita to walk you through a bit about the process timeline and service category. Susmita, please.
Thanks, guys. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to talk a little bit about what are we looking for here and go into the details of the kind of assignments and the support that we are looking for. Now, who is a service provider defined by the program? It's someone who's able to provide advisory and implementation support to the innovators that are being supported under the South and Southeast Asia region. You will be the go-to consultants for innovators on a range of topics that I'll cover shortly. And then there's a potential for you to become long-term partners of these innovators after the assignment that we would have procured for them. So this is the kind of organizations that we are looking at and who will be supporting our innovators in the short term through these assignments that we provide, but also in the long term, depending on how that relationship goes and evolves in the future. Next slide. How does this process work? Now, this process starts with an innovator telling us that they need a certain service or a certain advisory or implementation support, which we are not able to provide internally within the hub because it's very locally based, or it requires a very different kind of expertise. It requires more on-ground presence and data collection and the local context. So depending on the need of the innovator, we define a scope of work. And then the scope of work is circulated among the service providers, the empaneled pool of service providers within the program. Now, depending on the topic of the scope, it could be circulated within a subgroup of service providers. For example, if it's a request for a PR and branding exercise, then obviously the scope will be circulated among organizations who can provide that kind of service, but it will be within the empaneled pool of service providers. We don't go out in the public. So in that way, we are limiting the competition to organizations within the pool. Then we circulate the request for proposal. We provide a deadline for questions, clarifications that service providers might have. We answer the queries by the hub, and sometimes it might need more innovator context. So we also kind of get those responses for the interested applicants. And then the proposal is submitted by you, who's the service provider. There'll be a technical proposal and a cost financial proposal. which is evaluated at the hub and by the innovator. And the top 2 candidates are then able to present to the innovator, have a discussion based on which, if there's any revisions required, those are made. And then financial negotiation happens at the end, and we announce the service provider for that specific contract. And that's when the contract is awarded with Tetra Tech. Next slide, please. Once the contract is awarded to a certain service provider, we work on a work plan together, which is a much detailed planning for how the assignment is going to go. It's approved by the innovator and the regional hub, so that we are all aligned on what are the timelines for the deliverables, how the process should work out, and then you start the delivery process. Every deliverable that you submit, there might be 2 or 3 deliverables under a certain assignment. That's reviewed by the innovator and approved by them. If they have any comments, they provide you those comments, you incorporate those, and then you have the final deliverables, which is approved. Once all the deliverables are cleared, they're approved, we conclude the contract. And then again, we share another RFP with you whenever that comes out, and if it's relevant for your organization. Just to give you a few examples of the kind of assignments we are already working on. So one of the consultants is helping us design a financial loan product for the purchase of solar pumps in partnership with local microfinance organizations in a country. We are also working with a service provider to collect data from 500 farmers and understand their current use and willingness to pay for organic fertilizers. Under branding and communication, we are working with a service provider to be able to provide the innovator with a strategy to establish a branding and design strategy for the company that also includes designing the logos, collaterals, messaging based on the evolution of the operations of the company. Similarly, one of the service providers is also supporting innovator design a customer platform where a web-based platform and a mobile-based platform based on which the farmers don't have to now do a lot of these transaction bookings physically or through phones. They will be able to use the application and do that more easily, and it also helps the innovator kind of reach more farmers because now they are able to decentralize and digitalize their platforms. So these are some of the examples. There are a lot more, but we just picked a few which can be relatable. All these assignments that we work on are across the mentioned countries, which Bess also touched upon, all our focus countries in South Asia and Southeast Asia. So if you are a service provider who's either already present in these countries, or you're based out of certain country, but you have local staff in other countries, you are definitely welcome to apply, and you are eligible to provide service to our innovators across all these areas. Next slide. We have, for the purpose of categorization and to be able to effectively share the RFP with service providers, we have classified the requests or the needs typically a business or a startup that we support comes up with. So these are some of the broader areas of support. Of course, the scope can be a lot more detailed. It will exactly tell you what the innovator needs. But these are broader areas of support. Like you see, it can range from something like market research and analysis to organization development, to creating a marketing strategy, to kind of helping them improve the product through technical knowledge, or improve, say, certifications that are needed around a certain product or service. Moving on, next slide, please. We also try and procure services as needed on things like investment facilitation, legal advisory services, environmental assessments, or creating of policies or SOPs, integration of gender into business plans and operations, or communications and PR for that matter. Moving on. And This is again a few other areas: business development, model analysis. Financing is a big focus, as Bess mentioned, and user financing. So some of our support will be around designing financial products, reaching a lot of partners to be able to facilitate a certain kind of partnership locally for the innovator, monitoring and evaluation frameworks, tools, and actually going out and collecting data for the innovator, graphic design, PR and comms, branding, communication strategy, and so on. Just to remind everyone again, the deadline for, if you've joined a little late into the call, the deadline for submission of these EOIs is 16th of September. And my colleague will walk you through what documents are needed for the submission of EOIs. You don't have to, you're not applying for the assignment right now. You are applying to be given the opportunity to bid for these RFPs. And for that, we just need to know about your organization and your teams a little better. And that's the process that my colleague will walk you through after this. But if you have any questions concerning the process or examples that we just talked about, please feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll cover those. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you, Satyata. Thank you so much, and welcome everyone. We talk about the evaluation criteria, like when you are submitting your proposals, what are the criteria we are looking at. So there are principally three categories we look in your application. About number one is the management capacity and profile. So principally, it has two subcategories, where one is about the comprehensiveness of the firm profile, meaning that you include the key sectors and services, the geographies you have worked on, about the organization structure, your year of establishment, so it has some marks, and the experience in managing the contract or the technical assistance similar to the services categories which you have selected. In the EOI document, you see there are several service categories. So so whatever service categories you are selecting, so what are your specific experiences of managing the TA or the contract in those categories. Second main category is the technical capacity. Technical capacity of the proposed experts, which you are proposing, for whom you will be sharing the biographies of your key personnel. And the second is about the summary of company's level of profile. It's the experts profile, experts proficiency, and the company's level of proficiency. And the third category, we talk about the past and illustrative performance, what's the track record, what's the work you have undertaken, highlighting what were the key outcomes of that assignment which you have taken, or what was the efficiency you have achieved through that consulting. So these are the three major criteria on the basis of which we will be evaluating your proposal. Coming to the documents and certifications, at this level of pre-selection, pre-vetting, we only require one certification, which is that about government ownership. This certification is a simple certification where you can, on your own company letterhead, you can certify, confirm that your company, which is applying for this EOI, is not controlled in part or in total by any government organization. If you are an organization which is controlled by a government, then you are not eligible for this EOI. Other documents you need to submit at this point of time is the simple three documents. One is the proof of incorporation, that you are an incorporated organization. And second document can be your proof of registration, can be a business license, copy of business license. And the third is we require a list of key personnel in the office. Only the list, no more details, only the name and designation. And key personnel is a personnel who is having control over the management or who has the power to influence the decisions of the organization. It is not that we require this list for you. Don't need to list like who is your finance manager, who needs your finance assistant, or who is your. But if a person has the controlling authority or influencing authority and is the key personnel, please share the name, full name, and designation. So these are the only documents we require at this point of time. Subsequently, post-selection, when we will be awarding any contract to you for against any RFP, we will be requesting you to provide SAM UAI. It's a code which is unique code which is provided by the System Awards Management of the federal government, and we can help you in this later on, and supplier setup form, banking information, so that we can transfer the funds to correct account and a foreign source income statement. So these forms we will be sharing with you at a later stage, which you can complete and share with us. This certification I was just talking about this non-government certification is a very simple certification. You can simply type this certification on your letterhead and to be signed along with the company seal or stamp here at the bottom. And this declaration is only to confirm that your organization is not owned or controlled by any government entity. So this is a very simple documentation process. And now we can talk about the pre-submitted questions that has been shared with us and their responses. Probably some of the questions which I can see in the chat box is already in the presentation. So you can probably this will be help you to get a understanding. And Bess probably covered about this, that if, Bess please. So Bess has already covered that if you are already a pre-vetted service provider, you don't need to apply again. You will continue to remain in the pre-vetted pool and you will continue to receive our RFP relating to your specialization, your expertise area. Another question which we have received from some of the vendor was, after being pre-vetted, when will we receive the RFP or RFQs? Actually, this depends on the innovator need. So when we receive the lead from innovator, then you will get the RFP and RFQ. We will share with the pre-vetted vendors. If there is a service category, say for example A, and if there are 4 vendors who are listed in that A category of A service category, we will share this RFP with all these vendors, and then you will be providing your specific proposal for that RFP. We are expecting, because now, as Bess was mentioning, we have more innovators who has come up. So we are expecting that we will be issuing more and more RFPs in the last quarter of this year. Eligibility. There was one question about the operating status in country. and about whether the service providers will be allowed to travel outside their existing countries. Service providers is required to have experts physically working in the target country. Means, for example, if there is a RFP which is like to provide service in Indonesia, then you should have your experts physically working in Indonesia, as international travel to provide services is not allowed under this EOI. Though a legal registered entity in the target country is not required, but it is strongly preferred that you have a legal registered entity in the target country. And another clarification which came up was, do you need to provide several applications or for each country, or is the one submission is sufficient? Yes, one submission is required and sufficient. You can mention all countries of operation. If, like for example, if you are a company who provides service in 4 countries, you can list the name of the company, that yes, we can provide services in India, in Bangladesh, or in Thailand, or wherever in our implementing country. There was one clarification which came up, was whether a non-profit organization is eligible to apply as a service provider. And the answer is yes. Both for-profit and not-for-profit organizations are eligible to apply as a service provider. Non-profit can conduct market research for an innovator as a consultant, but how it should be noted that non-profit will sign a service contract with Tetra Tech. You will receive the deliverable-based payments, not grants. So you need to be sure that you can sign a service contract and you are okay to receive deliverable-based payments. Okay, so that was the clarification with whom, when there are multiple RFPs and RFQs for different innovators, with whom the contract will be signed. Contract, as best clarified, that contract will be signed between your organization and Tetra Tech, because Tetra Tech is the prime contractor for this WE4F program. Another clarification that came up was whether the service providers have a right to exit after you have been impaneled as a pre-vetted vendor. Do you want to? Can you exit from that? See, the response means you can choose. When we share the specific RFP or RFQ relating to your specialization category, you choose not to respond, but stay in the pre-vetted pool. If still you feel that you don't want to be in the pre-vetted pool, you can inform us subsequently and we can take you out from the pre-vetted pool. And there's a clarification which is probably a question of all the service providers. Can a service provider form consortium? Means, can 2 organizations or companies submit EOI jointly? Service providers are not allowed to form consortium. We pre-vet only the individual organizations as service providers. So whatever is your specialization category, you apply only for that category. Next slide, please. Certification, we talked about the certification and the template. I can just repeat because this was a specific question that came up. At this point of time, you are only required to submit the government related certification, a certification that your company is not owned or controlled by any government. You have a link here in the presentation. If you click here, you can get this certification which I was sharing earlier. In addition to this, only 3 documents I talked earlier: proof of incorporation, proof of registration. If the incorporation and business registration is one and the same document, you are fine to submit one document, not 2 separate documents for these 2. But in several countries, these 2 are separate documents. That is why it has been listed as separate. And list of key personnel, we just talked about. At this point of time, there is no other certification we require, like organizational conflict of interest. This conflict of interest certification is not required at this point. We require this certification when we sign the contract with the organization. Next slide, please. To the past project examples, there was one question that came up was about the summary of project. That because we talked about in the Survey Monkey talked about 3 slides long project summary. So it is that you can provide 3 project examples. That what are the project A, project B, and project C. That's all. What are the, and this project related to WE4F nexus. Please emphasize, if you have worked on 10 projects, please share the experience, your experience relating to the projects relating to our water, energy, and food nexus in the last 3 years. Not about like if you have worked on a project last 10 years back or maybe 8 years back. So that is strongly preferred. And then another clarification was, should we submit as PPT or PDF? Only PDF, because that is what is the most preferred form. So you can upload it as one file, this PPT, this project summary in PDF as one file. Is there a project? Is there a template of this project summary? We do not provide a template for this 3-slide project summary, but we can definitely share what are the key things that you want to include for each of your project that you have worked. It can be name of the project. It can be it should include the contract value, the funder, who was the funder of that program, what is the geographical location where you have provided the services, what was the description of the activities that you have done, what is the TA type. Means if you look at the UI document, there are TA categories listed there, 12 TA categories. So where your project falls under which category will be helpful. Period of performance, like what was the start date and end date of your service, and the key achievements and outcomes. So this bullet points will help you in writing or in providing the details in the most acceptable form, which will be easier for us to evaluate and you to have all the necessary details, not missing out any important point. Next slide, please. uploading additional documents. So that's one clarification which we received from several of the vendors, that okay, you have listed okay these 1, 2, 3 documents. So can we upload additional documents? You can upload additional documents, but the required documents which we have enlisted in the EOI are sufficient for our evaluation purpose. It's your call. If you want to provide additional documents, it's okay. But the documents which we have listed are the documents which we are looking at while evaluating the service providers. Can a pre-vetted service provider update their information? Yes, that can happen with anyone. Yes, you can update there if you are like included already in the pre-vetted vendor, and if there are changes or if there is any information you want to update, don't worry. You don't need to go through the EOI process again. You can simply mail the updated information to us at the email which is mentioned here, and we will update the information to your records. Technical assistant staff, and I'll request Shashmita and Beth to join on these questions. I'll take up, yes, Beth. About this specific question on the technical experts, please include only the full-time employees who are working with the organization. Not the part-time or not the who are not working with you as a full-time.
Right. So you may have a question. So some of you may have the question about like who should you count as a technical expert? Should it be part-time? Should it be full-time? Just to give you a bit of a background, like okay, like why do we ask this question? The reason we have the tier 2 or service provider to provide the local service to our innovator is that we need someone who have the depth of knowledge within your organization that we can say that we can give the task to, and with the full trust that you can execute and provide good service to our entrepreneurs or innovator. So that we would require you to share only the full-time employee, not a short-term consultant. This to avoid the situation when we are in the execution phase and the consultant that you may have, if not full-time, might not be available. So that is the reason why we would require all of you to include only the full-time professionals who are working on the ground and have experience on the ground. And the next question would be on about the experts still. Is the work expected to be carried out entirely by the local experts, or international team will work as well? So basically, while it is not required, it is the most preferred. As mentioned earlier just now, that the reason why we want to subcontract someone to work on our behalf is that there might be some local knowledge or no local expertise or subject-specific expertise that we don't have. And therefore, while it is not required, it is strongly preferred that you have someone to carry the task on the ground locally. However, it still depends on the task as well. For example, if you're talking about graphic design or marketing design or those type of work, international contract or international team can work on that as well, given you have the local experience. But if we talk about some tasks that require survey or a very in-depth local knowledge, of course, a local team will be strongly preferred. The next question is about the target audience. So basically, the audience in this case, and we understand that you're talking about the clients that you will be working closely with. In this case, as mentioned at the beginning, while the contract will be signed between us and you as Tech and yourself and your organization, the key clients that you will work closely with is the innovator or the entrepreneurs that we have onboarded. We have 30 plus now, we are about to have 40 soon. So these will be the innovators or the clients that you'll be working with. And they're working on on the wide range of technology with a different pain point and therefore the complex of the tasks that you will be dealing with. The audience that you'll be working with is the innovator. In the end, the innovator will support the smallholder farmer and women, smallholder farmer and market partner, government, so on and so forth. So therefore, you may need to deal with all of those parties that you have in your task as well. The next one is about how to reach them, like how to reach out to them with video or other content. So basically, all of the assignments will be to improve the business viability or their partnership or the expansion. Just to give a bit of the background, in our program, we support the innovators or entrepreneurs who are in the later stage or scaling stage or expansion stage. So therefore, all of them will come into the program with a similar goal, which is to expand. So therefore, all of the target audience or all of the clients, potential clients, if you win the contract, will be working on those scalability and expansion. And the response that you seek from the audience, from like our response you seek from the innovator, I assume that you ask about that, is for them to first scale, and secondly, to support the smallholder farmer on our behalf and in the very sustainable way. Last but not least, I think you asked about very specific about video making. I think this has already been answered in the previous slides. I think we are good with that. About the implementation, there'll be about the eligibility in the tier 2 service category. That service provider need to have prior experience operating in a nonprofit or social sector, so on and so forth. The quick answer to this question is that it is not required for you to have the experience working with nonprofit. Just to give you a bit of the background as well, that our program work mostly with for-profit organization or entrepreneurs. Of course, we have quite a number of nonprofit organizations, but all of them have the sustainable scale. So prior experience working with nonprofit is not required. However, the key point is here that you should have experience working with entrepreneurs or organizations working in water, energy, food, nexus sector. So that's more required comparing with the prior experience working with nonprofit. The minimum criteria in terms of the number of years of experience, it is not a requirement. There's no specific minimum requirement on this. However, please note that the reason we ask you to submit the backup document and all of the 3 slides that you are asked in the survey and in the Call for EOI survey is that we can assess not only the length of experience or the length of service that you provide, but also the depth of knowledge in that specific task and that specific TA category, because that is more important to us when we want to select someone to continue to work with us and innovator. Have us as WE4F team have any specific term or criteria for innovators? One thing that I want to note, and I think I'll provide the response we can provide a response in the chat as well, is that please note that this call for EOI is for service provider, not the innovator. We have the certain criteria for the innovator who we support, and you can look at our website. You can go to the call for innovation. The solicitation is there. You can look at the criteria there. But if you are the innovator, who are working on the ground to support smallholder farmer in both genders, so on and so forth. Please hold. We'll share more news about the new opportunity to you soon. But this call is mainly for the service provider or consultant who will be subcontracting to work and support the innovator on our behalf. And the next question is about any single provider or should send to support innovator, or should multiple service provider work in partnership? So basically, most of the time, it's one assignment for one service provider. Consortium is not allowed, as Mukesh may have already mentioned that. But of course, it depends. In some cases, that might be doable, but in the past, most of the case, in all cases in the past, it's one contractor for one service. Because, as Mr. Mukesh mentioned, the task that we will subcontract is really specific, with the specific need, specific timeline, specific know-how. So therefore, most of the time, it's one contract per one service provider. In particular, looking at the time, I think we can skip this. This is the very sector-specific one. We have already answered it all. You will see that in the FAQ as well. Yeah, this one as well. I think we have 2 minutes left. Clarify further what meant by gender lens. This is important because this is one of the area that we work a lot on, gender and investment. So there are investment document process support to prepare for innovator to raise the investment. So basically, there are a lot of type of funds, but basically for gender lens investment readiness that we mentioned is that to support the innovator to get the at-risk investment or at-risk capital from the investor, will look at the innovator using gender lens or climate lens. So basically, they're not looking at the one organization that they want to invest only from the financial perspective. They look at the gender perspective, impact perspective, climate perspective before they make an investment. And that's what we meant by gender investment. And of course, not all of the startup or not all of the entrepreneurs or not all of the innovator know how to deal and interact with that. And therefore, we want someone who can support them, the entrepreneurs or innovator in this case, to be ready to get the investment from those investors who are focusing on gender or climate smart investment. Okay, I think the next question will be specific on outreaching. We can skip that. You can refer to the question and answer in the FAQ. There's a question about budget ceiling. So basically, there's no ceiling. There's no minimum, there's no maximum, because as we keep mentioning, it will be subject to the need and the demand, the complexity of the task. So therefore, there's no threshold. But it's good to note that financial element is part of the final evaluation criteria before we make any selection or before we or innovator suggest the selection of the vendor. So we look at not only the financial perspective, but the technical know-how perspective. But in terms of the ceiling, there's no ceiling because we understand that some tasks require more budget than others. But what we usually do is we also look at the market price and compare if it makes sense, so on and so forth. And the next question. Okay, so basically for tier 1 support. For the tier 1 support, let me walk one step back. There are two support. One is tier 1 support and one is tier 2. So for the tier 1 support is a support that we will do it in-house within the hub without the need of the service provider. So basically, as you may see, Susmita is working on gender. So if there is anything related to gender, we can go to Susmita. We have the person working on the BOP. We have another person working on marketing, another person working on outreach, and so on and so forth. So The tier one support is the support that we can provide from the pool of knowledge within the hub. And therefore, the support from service provider is not required in the tier one support. All of the tier two support is different. Tier two support is something that we cannot provide from the in-house or hub's expert team. Therefore, we need someone else, in this case, the pre-vetted service provider who compete and win the contract to provide the service to our innovator on our behalf. All right. The category selections. Okay. So the pre-vetted process. So how, I think the question is around the limitation. Like, is there any limitation you can select? Some vendor may say we have the expertise of 20 category. What we want to do is we want you to prioritize and select the top 3 service category that you are really strong at first, submit in the call for EOI survey. If you really want to submit more category reporting document, you can do that, but you can submit to WE4F asiabids@tradetech.com. It will be considered on a case-by-case basis, but we would strongly encourage you to select the top 3 service category that you are most relevant and have the in-depth expert in that area. I think the question, these 2 questions, is really important. The first one is about if you need to provide all. So basically, if you select 3, do you need to provide 3? And within the 3 category, there are a lot of subcategories as well. Do you need to provide? The answer is no. You do not need to provide all of the support of all of the selecting, all of the category that you selected. It is not necessary because it depends on the need of the innovator. And as Smita mentioned about the process, before we enter into the contract with you, we will have the call for proposal. We will have a lot of evaluation, and you will provide the service only on that specific task. Only for that task, but it's not necessary for you to provide all. And the second question is, let's say a year from now, you want to change the TA category. Can you do that? The answer is yes, you can do that. You can change the TA category that you want to be contacted on or want to say that you're an expert in that category. You can do that at any time after you're pre-vetted. Because we understand that the situation on the ground, you may have the change in experts, you may want to change your strategy or the country of operation, so on and so forth. So the answer is yes, you can. I think this question is about the will the selected service provider need to cover all 8 countries? The answer is no, it is not necessary for the service provider to provide and perform only in the origin country. So basically, if you can prove that you have knowledge and have the local team who physically there in the country within the service country of WE4F, you can do that as well. For example, you may be located in Singapore, you have a big team in India where we have the innovator there. We can definitely open and contact you for a service in India. Is there any specific geography? I think we have already answered that. That is no any specific geographic focus. Can you plan one real portfolio? Okay, I think we have already answered that. Okay, I think so this question is around will the service provider only provide the TA for the innovator or involving another task of the hub? The short answer is your task will be just really specific to provide the technical assistance to the innovator, only on that task. It's not related to another role of the hub. So you'll be dealing with that innovator on that task specifically in that certain period of time, and that is it. So that is the relationship, and that is the role of the vetted and the contract winning service provider. Aspects personalized. Of course, I think this is really important to emphasize because as we keep repeating, all of the service and all of the is carefully designed to support each and specific innovator. So therefore, when you prepare the proposal or when you plan to design or propose a solution, please make sure to localize and personalize the support to serve that innovator to solve that specific problem statement that they have. So it is really important for us, and that's why we ask you to select the top 3 service category that you are really an expert on, because we need something that is really specific and really personalized and localized. All right, I think we answered almost all of the questions that you submitted. And I think we are now open for live question. We understand that there are a couple of live questions. As we walk through the pre-submitted question, our team is filling out the answers. And I would invite Susmita and Mukesh to come back to answer and provide the answer to all of the questions that you submitted live. Susmita, please.
Yeah, I think we've also tried to respond to your questions on the chat. So just going in order. I think for Audi and Ramesh, we have responded to these questions through the slides, right? Like, is there anything else you want to ask? Because I think Bess covered them on the response. For the new questions that have come in, there's a question which says, will there be an email sent to us listing down these requirements, and where do we upload, submit the documents and certifications? There is a web link that I posted on the chat, which has all the details with the EOI solicitation document, with the link where you can make the application and everything. And this presentation also will be uploaded on that website along with the video recording for today. So you can go back there and get all the details that you need. And I think that also answers your question, Ramesh, on organizers sharing the slides. So we'll put it on the same website and you can access them. I think Birod had a question on submission of profiles and CVs of experts. Mukesh, do you want to respond on that?
Yes, Susmita, and as I was just talking about, when we talk about the key personnel, we are asking for the list of the key personnel, including their name and designation. As far as the CVs are concerned, CVs of the experts which you are proposing. If your key personnel is an expert, you can share the CV of the key personnel as well. But if the experts are like different from key personnel, please share the CVs of the proposed experts. For key personnel, we only require their name and designation.
Question which is around using the budget for subsidizing products to farmers. No, unfortunately, that won't be possible under this contract. This is specifically to support innovators address a business challenge, either through advisory or through partnership supports. And this is not going to be financially a transaction where you are able to take this as a grant or subsidize things for farmers directly. That's not what this call is for. So unfortunately, we won't be able to do that. There's another question on how are the payment milestones mapped for a project? Now the entire activity is divided into assigned deliverables. So for example, if say you're doing a market survey, there might be 2 or 3 deliverables like a sampling note, a questionnaire, data cleaning. So each of these steps will have a deliverable. and your payments will be mapped against these deliverables. So as and when you provide these deliverables, you will be released that tranche of payment. And the number of milestones and the number of tranches differs from assignment to assignment, depending on the scope and the nature of such assignments. So I think that should hopefully answer your question.
Just to clarify what Shashmita mentioned about the milestone payment, when you are submitting your budget, you are actually defining for each milestone what should be the amount. Accordingly, the payments are linked for that milestone. Thank you, Shashmita.
Thank you. And then we have a last question on if business expansion is the key goal of communication, through the communication, are we reaching out to potential investors for helping innovators? So I think Bess mentioned this in the beginning, that we have a brokering unit which works very actively with innovators to help them access investment. If there are any additional support that the innovator needs to be able to get that investment, we will have like a procurement, or we'll get a service for them to be able to achieve that. But this call is not specifically targeted to get investors for innovators. This is to help build the capacity of these companies to be able to achieve the financial and impact goals that they want. And if a part of that means they would need some support on getting ready for investment, then that could be something that can be supported under this procurement process. But yeah, this procurement is not directly meant for investors.
Thank you. I think we also get a question about the application as a company or as individuals. Yeah. It is only for the company. So for the service provider that we refer to throughout this presentation, we refer to a company or organization only, not individuals. The budget, we have already answered that. So basically, there is no budget ceiling for this, for each specific task. It really depends on the need. It really depends on the complexity. It really depends on the needs of the innovator. So what you will do, let us walk through the process. So we will have the task that we want. We will publish that. You will submit the proposal together with the budget, and therefore we can evaluate based on that, because we understand that the market rate for different tasks can be different. So therefore, there's no ceiling. There's there's no specific set that we would just say we reject if we reach this ratio. It really depends on the task. I think one last question is about the link to submission. We have already shared that in the chat. Please feel free to use that link to submit your EOI. And I'm so glad that like at the end of all of this, you are interested in submitting the EOI. So just to reemphasize again that please go ahead and submit it as soon as possible. The deadline is on September the 16th at 5 p.m. Bangkok time. So right after this call, please start filling out the survey via SurveyMonkey, and that's the link in the chat. You can also find the link on our website as well, WE4F, WE4F.org. You will then find the link on our website. You can go to blog on the top right corner, and you will find the news about our hub looking for service provider in the call for EOI.
I'm also putting that on the chat box again. So once you go on the website, you will have a solicitation document, and that will have all the details, including the SurveyMonkey link, which you will use to upload all the documents that we just discussed.
Lovely. And I think what we can walk through the next step after this call. If you listen to this, and for someone who may look at this recording and watch this recording, if you have any questions, please feel free to send us email at we4fasiabits@teratech.com. Please go ahead and send us email at any time. We'll try to respond to that as soon as possible. We will also upload the presentations and the FAQ the FAQ document onto our website. We have already shared the link in the chat. And for those who are listening in the recording, you can go to our website as well. Last but not least, please submit the presentation. Please submit the EOI or any question by September 16th. We will announce the pre-vetted service provider on October 14th, and therefore we will start working on the procurement process right after that. All right. Last but not least, there's a 1-minute post-webinar survey. If you have your phone, please feel free to pick up your phone and scan the QR code. If you want to click the link, our team will share the link in the chat at this moment as well. It will just take you less than 1 minute for you to complete. Very quick. Please go ahead and complete the post-webinar survey so we know how can we continue to improve this webinar and continue to work with you going forward. All right, I think that's it. And thank you everyone for joining us today, and look forward to receiving your EOI very soon. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.